DC has plummeted as a result. There were no riots, there were no protests, nobody was tragically killed as a result of that level of cooperation between federal and local authorities. And again, that's all the president is asking for in Minnesota. It's totally common sense. Jared, go ahead.
Thank you, Caroline. In this process, you continue to describe the situation in Minneapolis as chaos. Was there any mistake made by Secretary Noem that led the president to send Mr. Holman there?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. Did Secretary Noem make a mistake which led to?
If she made any mistake that could lead the president to send Mr. Holman to Minneapolis?
No, as I already mentioned, Mr. Holman has been working alongside Secretary Noem and for the president over the course of the last year. And again, he's uniquely positioned to hop on a flight to Minnesota today to continue this correspondence with state and local authorities, and that's what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, because now, as Tom Holman goes there, ICE is going to pull back out of Minnesota to return on a later date. But this is what Tom Holman's going out there to do. He's going to talk to WALZ. He's going to figure out, all right, well, why can't you provide crowd control? They're going to figure that out. They're going to figure out, all right, well, these detainees that you're not allowing us to get, we're going to figure that out. And then we're going to rebring in ICE. After, of course, they get more intelligence on these ICE watcher guys and all this good stuff as well. Like I said, they're kind of going into there on a reactionary, like, well, honestly, they're going into there, well, kind of unprepared, to be quite honest with you, because in other states, none of this is happening. None of this is honestly happening, guys. And I think this video sums it up pretty well. Like, there's not, like, bro, in Minneapolis, they just got a special group of people who truly feel like ICE is out to get them, who truly feel like they're the Gestapo, who overreact to them and end up hurting themselves in the process. But check this out.
It's only in places like Minneapolis where you're seeing civilians being shot by ICE officers. You're not seeing this sort of thing in places like Florida. Because in Minneapolis, you have a radicalized population of Disney-brained adults who think that they're in a movie. They literally think they're like superheroes resisting tyranny in a movie. So they show up to protest, armed, and intentionally intervene and agitate federal law enforcement activities. And it's like, these people think that this is what the Second Amendment's for. It's for resisting tyranny. You are not resisting tyranny by resisting the enforcement of federal law that people voted for, by the way. Trump ran on enforcing our immigration laws. Just because your radicalized population in Minneapolis didn't vote for those laws doesn't mean that they cease to be federal law. They should still be enforced, and interfering with the enforcement of those laws is literally resisting the will of the American people. You are not the hero you think you are. You're a radicalized Disney-brained adult who thinks that you're the superhero in a movie when in actuality you've just been brainwashed to fight against your own interests.
I mean, do you not want pedophiles to be taken off the street? I mean, do you not want to live in a safer neighborhood? Do you not want your kids to have an opportunity in the job market? Is all that not important to you? Because, yeah, when you guys fight against, like, bro, when you fight for these undocumented, you're fighting against your own interests right here. You're fighting against your own interests. And like I said, you guys are complaining about, oh, the president's a pedophile, but you're out here stopping pedophiles from being arrested in your own area. I mean, like, bruh, I mean, if you're a person in Minnesota doing these protests, I better not ever hear you call Donald Trump a pedophile ever again, because you're protecting him.
Fran.
Caroline, is it the White House's position that Americans have the right to show up to these ICE operations and film, document, or protest the law enforcement actions?
All Americans have a First Amendment.
You can protest. You can sit there with your camera phone out, with your nice homemade sign, your little arts and crafts sign that you did. But what you can't do is get in the way of law enforcement. That's the problem. Nobody's telling you guys you can't do that. The problem is the people who are going out there aren't protesting. They're obstructing. There are people who are protesting. There's people who are obstructing. The problem is that left-wing media makes it seem like all these guys are just peaceful protesters, and they're just getting like pretty much detained and thrown on the ground for no reason, when that's a lie. Even the lady that not hand, but there was actually, well, an ICE officer recently got his finger bit off, and his lady tried to throw a tear gas can back and end up getting hurt. Well, no, flashbang back, and end up getting her hand or finger blown off. And this is all going down in Minnesota. So we got ICE officers and protesters losing appendages. And we want to keep this going because of lazy leadership of the mayor and the governor, as they just sit there and try to blame it on ICE as if these two can't do anything about it.
constitutional right, of course, but Americans do not have a constitutional right to impede and obstruct lawful immigration enforcement operations. That is actually a crime, and it's something that we've seen taking place in the streets of Minneapolis, which again is leading to these dangerous circumstances that these federal law enforcement officers have been forced to work within.
With respect to the call with Governor WALZ this morning, the president described it as respectful. He said we seem to be on a similar wavelength, but you had strong criticism for the governor and the Minneapolis mayor, Jacob Frey, just now. So could you explain the difference in tone between what the president had said in his True Social post and I think some of the criticisms that you just levied from the podium?
Fran, I think the criticisms that I laid out, I'm painting the picture for all of you in this room, are what led to the moment that we are in today, where Governor WALZ and President Trump are having a conversation, a constructive and productive conversation to end the chaos.
Oh, guys, let's make sure you guys like the video, guys. If you're on the vertical, make sure you double tap that screen. If you're on the horizontal on Rumble, which we got like 7 of y'all in there right now, make sure you guys like the video, man. Let's get more people in on the chat. Let's beat the shadow ban on Rumble. Let's try to grow the community. Well, my bad. Beat the shadow ban on YouTube and grow the community on Rumble. All right, guys, let's go. Shout out to Rumble where they don't shadow ban you or really care about what you say. Shout out to real freedom of speech.
And the lawlessness that has taken place in Governor WALZ's state. Elena.
Thank you.
And shout out to my man Monty. He says they want to keep it going. Oh, shout out for Monty on Rumble. He sent the Rumble rant. And guys, you can come in on Rumble. It's like only $1 to send a super chat. So shout out to Rumble. But he says they want to keep it going because it's hurting approval ratings. They're more than happy to sacrifice their useful idiots for a hate orange man agenda. It's sickening. And also, shut up, bud. I'm weak. Shout out to my man Monty.
I had a question. With Homan now going to Minnesota, is Gregory Bovino also going to remain in Minnesota overseeing these ICE operations?
Mr. Bovino is a wonderful man, and he's a great professional. He is going to very much continue to lead Customs and Border Patrol throughout and across the country. Mr. Homan will be the main point of contact on the ground in Minneapolis.
And to follow up, given what we've heard from several Trump administration officials, people like Stephen Miller, as people point out, calling him a domestic terrorist, but saying that Freddie was out to massacre law enforcement. Why not require ICE agents to wear body cameras to clear up some of the disputes that we are hearing from witnesses and video footage versus what the administration has?
Love, who needs body cameras when you got, these protesters? Did we not just catch that shooting in like 8 different angles? Did we not catch the Renee Good shooting in 8 different angles? Man, who need body cameras when you got all the surveillance going around these days? Now, am I against these guys having body cams? Of course not. But I'm just like, I don't think that's the problem, sweetheart. Let's be honest here. We're catching all these shootings in like 8 different angles. So trust me, cameras aren't the problem. The problem is these protesters are turning into obstructionists and nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody want to pretend like they're all peaceful protesters, but that's not true. Some of these protesters are going out their way to get in the way of ICE. And that's the problem. And then a lot of these protesters, they're crowding ICE. That's the problem. Why? Because there's no crowd control being provided. And if you guys don't got enough police, then bring in the National Guard.
Well, that's a policy question that I know the policy folks in the building are having with members on Capitol Hill, and I'll leave it to them and the president to make that decision.
And my final question is on, you were talking about the level of cooperation that the president talked about with Governor WALZ. Will the administration commit?
Oh, I thought you were talking about to somebody in the chat or something, or somebody that I recently brought up. I did have to just grill a chatter, but shout out to my man Monty. So I didn't mean shut up. I meant to type what up. Shout out to Monty. Appreciate you. Shout out to my man Monty on Rumble and to the viewers on YouTube. I appreciate you guys.
To cooperating with local officials on this investigation into Alex Freddie.
The president spoke about this with Governor WALZ and said he would have a discussion about it. He did not make a commitment, and so therefore I won't make that commitment here. I would just remind all of you in the media, because I've seen a lack of reporting on this fact, there are investigations into what took place on Saturday. The Homeland Security investigations and the FBI have teamed up for an investigation, and there's also an internal. Now,
this is where the distrust comes, because for some reason, the left does not like the fact that this is being invested by, Homeland Security Investigation, HSI, and the FBI. They don't like it. They don't like it, and I know why, because they know that if we leave it to the Minnesota state, they're gonna crucify this man. They're gonna hold him. They're gonna say he's guilty no matter what proof comes out, and that's just what's gonna happen. But this is why I also hear the left out that if it goes to the FBI and HSI, well, oh, that's all ran by Trump. It's going to be extremely biased. Well, guess what, brother? Both sides are going to be extremely biased to one side's dissatisfaction. So it is what it is.
CBP investigation and internal review of what is happening on the ground in Minnesota. The president supports those investigations, and as I've said repeatedly, he wants to see them move forward. Phil.
FBI Director Kash Patel said in a Sunday interview, quote, "You cannot bring a firearm loaded with multiple magazines to any sort of protest." Does the president believe the Second Amendment rights remain?
Nah. Hey, yo, shout out my man Gaming. He says, left be like, some of you may die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to take. Protesters are starting to get more militant, just dust off forward libel and use the insurrection and clear the fraud. I mean, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, what Pam Bondi offered this man might be his only way out. Like, all you got to do is give up your welfare data, your voter registration data, and provide backup for ICE, which Tim Walz can do as governor by bringing in the National Guard, and it's all good. Or is he just going to, keep on with the inflammatory rhetoric towards ICE as he sits in his nice little house and watch his constituents go out there and get themselves hurt or, much worse, killed? I mean, that's what all of them are doing right now. It's kind of pathetic, but I mean, these are the people they're following.
In effect, even when protesting.
The president supports the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding American citizens. Absolutely. There has been no greater supporter or defender of the right to bear arms than President Donald J. Trump. So while Americans have a constitutional right to bear arms, Americans do not have a constitutional right.
This is not about a constitutional right to bear arms. It's also about, well, if you're a person bearing arms in Minnesota, it's your responsibility to carry identification with you. It's also really responsible for you to understand, like, yeah, as a person who is armed, maybe me trying to get in the way of law enforcement is not gonna, be perceived the right way. He may go in there and be like, I'm just trying to save this lady, but the ICE officer going there like, hold on, this is an armed man trying to stop me. Like, what else is this man willing to do? If he just wanted to jump in front of into a law enforcement scene armed, by the way. And I'm not saying the man deserved to die, but I'm just gonna be real with you, Brandon. Like, these guys are walking themselves into situations where common sense would tell you not to go to. But if you're radicalized you're gonna think this is something okay. If your mayor says, "Oh, well, these guys are evil and all this good stuff," you're gonna think it's okay to go against these guys and get yourself killed. This is what's happening out there in Minnesota. The leadership is telling them that it is okay. The leadership is telling these protesters that you could be obstructionists and we will protect you.
To impede lawful immigration enforcement operations. And any gun owner knows that when you are carrying a weapon, when you are bearing arms and you are confronted by law enforcement.
And shout out to my man Monty for being now a monthly supporter on Rumble, man. Appreciate the support, man. Let's try to grow that Rumble chat. I'll go ahead and post the link again in the chat so we can get more people over onto Rumble.
You are raising the assumption of risk and the risk.
You know what, guys? I'm about to learn my lesson. I'm about to take the lesson what my predecessors went through when they, speak on things like this and they face shadow ban. What they had to do was use YouTube as a funnel to get people over to a platform that don't give a damn about what you say. And you can still get super chats and all that good stuff. So shout out to Rumble for actually standing up for free speech and creators. Shout out to Rumble. YouTube, y'all on my bad side right now.
Of force being used against you, and again, that's unfortunately what took place on Saturday.
Is in Minneapolis. Will his mission continue to be focusing on illegal immigrants with a criminal history, or will it be on illegal immigration generally?
Mr. Holman will continue to enforce our nation's immigration laws, especially deporting the worst of the worst criminals in Minnesota who have committed violent offenses. And I would just remind all of you that this important work is continuing to be carried out. In just the last few days, I'm happy to provide this packet to anyone in the room. ICE has arrested multiple violent criminals, illegal aliens within Minnesota. Many of them have convictions for assault, driving under the influence, fraud. This individual here I'm looking at was an aggravated felon with multiple convictions for larceny, fraud, and forgery of checks, vehicle theft, drug possession, domestic assault, inflicting bodily harm on another, criminal convictions of larceny, identity theft, again, charged with driving under the influence. These are extremely dangerous people who Governor Walz and Mayor Frey have allowed to roam on their streets. And all the president is asking for is cooperation to arrest individuals like this and deport them from the United States of America. I'll take a couple more. Go ahead.
Okay, so this weekend the president posted that this is a cover-up of the fraud in the state of Minnesota. He also posted Minnesota is a cover-up. These both happened after the shooting. So given these came after the shooting, what is the this here? What is the cover-up he's alleging?
Yes, it's a good question. I spoke with the president about this at length. What the president is referring to is the fact that you have Governor Walz and, again, the mayor, who have been encouraging these left-wing agitators to come out and to harass and to dox and to threaten ICE and to make this conversation about and smear lies about federal law enforcement who, again, are just trying to do their jobs in an attempt to distract from the widespread massive fraud that has taken place in their state. Billions and billions of dollars has been stolen from law-abiding taxpayers in Minnesota, and the administration continues to be very focused on getting to the bottom of it, and especially, and the president raised a good question over the weekend with respect to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who now has a net worth within the millions, and one must ask themselves why and how is that possible?
I mean, to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure why Ilhan Omar's net worth is such a big concern, because if you just kind of look at who her husband is, the question answers itself. I mean, I'm not really sure. Like, look, bro, I don't like the lady either. I don't like her politics either, guys. Okay. I don't like what you say about Americans and none of that. But when we sit here and try to create the most lies about somebody, bro, it's like, what is this? It like Omar derangement syndrome. First, we try to say she married her brother. I looked into that. Proved out not to be true. Now we're going like, oh, well, this 30 million came from fraud. It must be fraud. We don't know that for sure. But but guess what? More than likely, that's not true either, because she's been worth that before the fraud. Actually, she's been worth that ever since she got married to her husband. So when they say, oh, it went up out of nowhere, I mean, yeah, it went up ever since she got married to a millionaire, a white millionaire. Well, it might be. I mean, he looks Jewish, but does that really matter? But hey. So I don't really know about this whole, oh, let's track her down for her net worth. I'll be real with you. Like, look up her husband, and it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. It's Tim Minette, if you didn't know.
Is she connected to the fraud rings that we have seen taking place within her state and her own district? It's a question the American people are raising, and the president believes it's one worth answering. Haley.
Thanks, Caroline. I want to go back to some of the comments from Stephen Miller and Secretary No. You've made clear the president wants to see the investigation play out when answering some of the questions on the specific details. Is he concerned that some of those definitive statements made by other officials risks public perception of the credibility of those investigations now playing out?
Again, the president believes that these investigations are credible, they are continuing, they are active, and he wants to let them play out. Alex.
Is the administration willing to separate DHS funding from other funding bills in order to avoid a broader shutdown?
Yeah, so if you don't know, bro, this is some bullshit. But so look, guys, you remember when they shut down on the ACA subsidies, and we was able to get those pushed past the House, and I think we're still waiting on the Senate because we want to extend the ACA subsidies for 3 years, right? And that was actually the main reason that these guys shut the government down last year. Well, guess what? They're about to shut it down again over ICE. They're saying, well, we want to take funding away from ICE, so we're shutting the government down. And now at this point, it's just like, are you serious? Hold on now. Because last time y'all shut the government down, you didn't even get what you want, but you still shut it down. Now you're telling me that you're going to shut it down again, make people suffer through that again, and what? Not get what you want again, while ICE will most likely still be funded? Like, please, Dems, don't do that. Actually, please don't. That's going to hurt American people, and it definitely will hurt y'all chance at the midterms, but I don't think y'all give a damn right now. It's y'all mainly too focused on, well, ICE.
Look, at this point, the White House supports the bipartisan work that was done to advance the bipartisan appropriations package, and we want to see that passed. Policy discussions on immigration in Minnesota are happening. Look, the president is leading those discussions, as evidenced by his correspondence with Governor WALZ this morning, but that should not be at the expense of government funding for the American people, which would include, as you know, Alex, FEMA funding, and we are in the midst of the storm that took place over the weekend, and many Americans are still being impacted by that. So
and shout out to my man Gaming. He says, broke ass Monty finally became a member. Play the video I sent you. Also, the president can declare a federal state of emergency and send in the guard, enforce a curfew, and send in ICE, TA. Gotta think more. Yeah, honestly, that is true, though. That is true. They do need to think a little bit more on that. Honestly, I'm not sure what Trump is waiting for. There's people getting mad at Trump right now for not invoking the Insurrection Act. It's like, what else do you need to see? I memean, we got 2 citizens dead. We got ICE officers who've been injured. Bro, we got one ICE officer who got a hand bit off. We got another protester who got her not hand bit off, but finger bit off, or tip of the finger. We got a lady who accidentally blew her finger off by trying to throw a flashbang. I mean, what else needs to happen? Honestly, this should have happened a week ago. But hopefully Donald Trump will come around. It honestly seems like he's giving them one more chance with his whole tactical retreat. Seems like he's giving them one more chance.
Absolutely do not want to see that funding lapse, and we want the Senate to move forward with passing the bipartisan appropriations package that was negotiated on a bipartisan basis.
And secondly, there's another round of Russia-Ukraine talks this weekend, Sunday. If you can walk us through with the president, how he'll be involved in that, if at all. We'll be talking to President Putin.
And shout out to my man, Mr. Paramedic, is also now a monthly supporter on Rumble. Appreciate the support. Shout out to the 8 people on Rumble. Make sure y'all like the video, man. Let's get that Rumble chat booming. And on YouTube, let's not forget to double tap that screen. Like I said, we're still trying to beat the shadow ban, but I still want to get some of y'all over to Rumble.
Zelensky ahead of those meetings?
I'm not tracking any scheduled calls at this point in time. However, the president remains deeply involved, and of course, he's being apprised by his advisors, namely Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Witkoff, on these talks. They had a multilateral meeting this past weekend, which didn't get a ton of coverage, but that was historic in nature, where the president's team has really brought 2 sides of this war to the table together to move the ball closer towards peace. So the president is not giving up on the peace process. He obviously just met with President Zelensky when we were in Davos, Switzerland, but I'm not tracking any calls scheduled for this week. On one more foreign policy point, I will point out, as you all saw, the last remaining body of the hostages, Israeli hostages in Gaza, has been returned. This is a huge foreign policy feat for the President of the United States, for the state of Israel, and frankly, for the whole world. The president made the impossible possible. And so it's great news for the president, for the United States, for our allies, and also for peace and